item. They don't really care that the Lugia is that Lugia. Now, Lugia is cool. Don't get me wrong, right? But it's not really about that. It's about knowing that that Lugia is going to be $400 in 5 years. Welcome back to the den, guys. So today we're going to be talking about commodities. Recently, I made a short little video about the intersecting markets between, One Piece, Pokemon, silver, gold, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies as a general concept, and other collectibles. And it's very interesting because what I'm seeing across the board is that there's a cultural shift that shows that the average person who is tuned into the markets seems to not be interested in cash. They want to be moving their cash away. Now, obviously, this ties into politics, and we won't go too far into that. But basically, the feds have been making some changes, and there's been a lot of printing in the last, 6 years, we'll say. So, the thing that I don't understand is prior to the current market, there was a consistency between cryptocurrencies and TCGs, specifically with Pokemon. It had seemed that if Bitcoin was up, Pokemon was up. And up until I would say a couple months ago, that was like the rule, right? Now, I know that the modern Pokemon market and the way it's being treated as a collectible asset or as a place to store your wealth has really changed a lot. And prior to that, it was what it is now, just a collectible. Having something, like this would have, some inherent value to it, but it wasn't tied to the way that we look at it now with this monetary interest. But lately, it seems like Pokemon is almost a vector to get rid of cash. Like people are just dumping cash, not as like, hey, I'm gonna get rich off of this, although there is that, but more of like just a store of value. Now, we saw this huge spike in gold and in silver recently, and I think I mentioned it, but I made a video on my Instagram about taking in some silver against a Dark Charizard that I had in a PSA slab. And it was very cool. It was kind of novel, something I'd never been asked before, so I really wanted to make something of it. And it was a highlight of my last week. But it really pushed me into thinking about this a lot more. And what I'm seeing here is that a lot of people, like I said before, seem to have a lot of distrust in their own monetary, like fiat currency supply. And I'm seeing a lot of interest not in the collectible item. They don't really care that the Lugia is that Lugia. Now, Lugia is cool. Don't get me wrong, right? But it's not really about that. It's about knowing that that Lugia is going to be $400 in 5 years, right? It is being treated as, a stock or almost a CD, like in a bank, and it makes me wonder how this is all going to work out. Now, there is the migration of like flippers who are moving around the TCG hobbies. So we started with Pokemon, and then there was a lot of interest in Magic the Gathering, especially when Final Fantasy came out. And then they moved from Final Fantasy back to Pokemon. We had a minor bull there, and basically Spider-Man just knocked that all down. Spider-Man just basically cooled off the entire Magic the Gathering market. But then shortly after Pokemon started to lose its value in November, everyone shifted over to One Piece. And One Piece went parabolic. And I don't understand what's going on there. Now, I know that One Piece is a large, franchise and people like it. Like, I personally don't have a lot of connections to One Piece. I watched One Piece very little. I've seen the live action, which is like a big no-no, and I understand that. When I was a kid, I had like a little manga that featured Tony Chopper. It was kind of like a demo one. I can't remember how I got it. Maybe it was a gift or something. So I know Tony Chopper, and I understand the appeal to that. But beyond that, I am just watching this like almost frenzied interest in One Piece shifting. And then we saw silver climb, and then it came crashing down, and it stabilized, and it's still higher than it was in the beginning. But now Pokemon is climbing again. One Piece is continuing to go up. Magic is even starting to go back up a little bit, and we're seeing all these different TCGs getting a lot of, support and financial interest. What I don't understand is why is Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies going down when people are just looking for a store of value? The liquidity in crypto markets is so much quicker. I can turn around and sell a Bitcoin a lot faster than I can sell these pack of cards. Now, the pack of cards I can still sell pretty quickly. I just throw them up on eBay, someone picks them up, no big problem, right? But it's it's weird that people haven't been how do I put this? Haven't been more careful about where their investments are going. It almost seems like it's becoming more radically aggressive to trying to make a profit off of these instead of a store of value, like I was saying earlier. And it makes me concerned about the longevity of the entire market. One thing also, and I'm sorry if this is coming off as kind of scatterbrained. There's a lot of different thoughts I have on the subject, and I'm not really sure how I can formulate it. I do these all in one take. I'm not very good at this yet. I'll get there, But I was watching a video from Alpha Investments, which was about Rudy, and his opinions on what's going on with Pokemon and what's going to fix this. Now, we had Ascended Heroes come out, and right out the gate, the booster packs are selling for $10 to $15. You can buy a sticker collection for $40 to $50 on the market, which is just for 3 packs is insane, right? But people are gobbling it up. They're just eating all of it, and it doesn't make sense because you have so much money moving around in this market, so much interest moving around. Nobody has enough supply. And while this is all going on, other things are going down in the traditional markets. So it's almost like there's a frenzy for chasing the value because there's limited resources and everybody's trying to get themselves in before it all, crumbles almost. But there's not enough people who buy collectibles to really make that kind of impact. And you look at like the stocks and stuff like that, and they're up and down, but they're kind of the same. And I don't know. It's a weird time. It's a weird time. And I'm talking to people in my real life about these things, and almost every single person who is interested in these topics is saying cash is trash and they're getting out of it. So I don't know what this means long term. It makes me wonder if this gets too much attention onto it and this burns too hot. Will we end up with a situation where regulators come in and try to cool it off? You think about all the money going in to all these different trade shows, and it just makes me wonder, are we going to end up with a situation where, you have a pseudo heist where somebody comes in or a group of people come in and they just take a bunch of stuff like robbery, causing attention to this entire thing? Because if you have $10 million auctions going off, and large investment funds like hedge funds and stuff putting all their money into collectibles, which we've been seeing, and you're having packs of Ascended Heroes coming out and they're $15, and if you run to your local Target and you get lucky enough, you can double or triple your money right off the bat. And then on top of that, you have One Piece that's just exploding in value. And now that One Piece is not as accessible due to the scalping epidemic that we're seeing there. Now people are shifting into Dragon Ball. So now you have Dragon Ball getting a bunch of attention. I don't know what to make of this. This doesn't seem like a natural response of a group of people who are interested in trading cards. Now, maybe it is just a generational thing. Millennials and Zoomers are now in a position to where they have a lot of free cash on their hands and they don't have enough ability to afford like a home or a nice car, or they're just not interested into like certain other commodities like jewelry, I guess. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure this out. To where they're just dumping all their money into, these, which is cool. But again, if that's what's happening, there's no way that regulators aren't going to be looking at this and going, hey, we have a problem. We have an unregulated market where a bunch of people are chasing dollars. Because, if you think back to like the Great Depression, okay, the big issue with the Great Depression was that there was no regulatory agencies. Everybody was running through buying and selling stocks and bonds as quickly as possible and cashing out, making millions or whatever the, a correct amount is adjusted to inflation. And that's what led to a roaring 20s in the US. A lot of people went out and partied, had a great time, everything was great, and then the whole thing came down, right? And I just wonder, a box of Destined Rivals, which right now is selling for $600, it's been out since May, okay? Next to it, well, not next to it up here, but like down here, I had Silver Tempest. That's going for $500 or, somewhere around that area. But even the lesser sets, like Phantasmal Flames, is like almost $300. Where a couple years ago, these booster boxes were at most 100. It's just bizarre. And I don't, like I said in this whole thing, kind of rambly, don't know what to make of it. I think there's a lot going on here. I think a lot of people are just treating cash as trash and trying to, basically put themselves in a position to where they have assets and they're trying to, hedge themselves against something. And they're hiding behind, nostalgia. And that's weird. So I don't know what to make of this. Thanks for watching. Just a weird thought. Let me know what you think down below. Something's up with this market. I'll see you guys later. Bye.